Oh, he's down in the creek. Oh.
It's a long story, son.
So this was just a normal whitetail rut hunt in Kansas. Started out just like all the others did. Little did I know this was gonna be the year. So in my normal fashion, I typically like to shoot my doe as soon as I get to Kansas, just to break the ice, get a little meat in the cooler on ice, possibly fry some, and cook some up while we're there. But pretty much every year when I go to Kansas, it's going ahead and getting me a doe on the ground. dare her blow at me. She almost let the gig up. I had to go ahead and stop that. I don't like one to blow at me. I don't think she made it real far. I think she's down right there. Let's see if we can find this there. So we found the arrow, and it is covered in blood. Good blood all the way down it. You find her, Dennis?
Yeah.
Right.
Blood coming in.
I don't know exactly how she turned. But she turned somewhere.
Right here, you just got a stream of blood just going. Look.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't see anything back there until here.
She just opened up right there, huh? All right. Big old nana.
Which side you shoot her on? Other side, didn't you?
Yeah, it come out. She was pulling away hard. Yeah, I put it right where I...
Down through.
Yeah. All right. Big old Kansas doe. Figured I'd just go ahead and fill my tag. It's about to get right, and the rut's starting to happen. So we gonna be all buck from here on out. But I just had a good chance to take a big mature doe. She actually blowed at me, so we can't have that. She was about to give the whole gig up. We wasn't gonna let her do that. But here she is, big old doe. We have a piece of property just north of where we stay at, and we have this piece of property with Hunt 180, and these guys are based out of Kansas. We've been holding on to that piece of property for several years now, and hunted it hit and miss a few times here and there. Red had hunted it pretty hard previous years, and it's one of the places where when we have a south wind, that's the place to go, because it's just a really good piece of property to hunt on a south wind. And so we were getting a predominant south wind that evening, and I decided to just go down to that property for the evening. I was gonna get in there just a touch late, but thought that would just be a great place to go and set the evening. I really didn't have much experience with that piece of property other than the fact that I just knew the layout of that land. So I thought, you know, what the heck, might as well give it a shot. It's November 15th. Got settled in the stand, and I wasn't even settled in. I wasn't settled in there 5 minutes, and I hear footsteps coming through the creek, and it was a little small buck coming up through the creek, and at that time, once I seen that, you know, when I got into this stand, that the deer were pretty much already on their feet, and I really didn't even get set up good, and I already had deer, you know, around me, and it wasn't long after that deer filtered through the creek. I just get to looking around, and there's deer coming out everywhere, all the way around me. So I know that it's a really good evening. Some of those evenings that you hunt, you just know, you just have that feeling. There's just a sense in the air. You know, those pressures are just right, and it's got the deer on their feet. And this was no exception. This was just a really good evening. So just a few hours of sitting in the stand watching all these deer in other directions, I see a deer behind me towards the way that I walked in at, and the deer was just standing there. I've scanned the area, you know, we typically, you know, hunters, we scan the areas constantly. We're always looking for deer, and this deer was just standing up in the middle of a field. And I thought, well, there's no way that this deer could have entered that field, and got to wondering how he entered that field. And then another deer just stood up in front of my eyes when I was looking at that deer, and I realized that the field just maybe 100 yards where I walked in at held, you know, all these deer. There was multiple deer just kept standing up in that field, and I knew that I had been lucky to walk by those deer and not scare those deer up out of that field. And lo and behold, a deer stands up and he just grabs my attention, and I immediately just start getting, you know, that heart thump feeling just as soon as he stood up, and you know, pull my binoculars up, and I look at the deer, and I'll never forget, you know, when I put those binoculars up and I looked at that deer and got kind of zoomed in on him, and noticed that he had that double main beam. He had a whole nother beam coming out, and I had never really seen a deer with that characteristic, which, I mean, I've seen some deer, but not that long of a main beam. And I knew the deer wasn't just a really wide, big frame buck.
I mean, he's medium size, but he has a main beam coming up under his other main beam, so I'm gonna try to get that buck over here. I will shoot that buck.
I knew he had, you know, great tine length, good. I could tell he had mass just from the distance from the field to where I was at. The deer had mass, but when I seen that main beam, I knew that deer, just the pure character of that double main beam, I knew that I wanted to get that buck over my way. I realized there's a doe out there in the field with all these bucks. These bucks were all around this hot doe, and she was bedded down in that field, in that grass, in that thick grass, and she had all the boys. She had all the boys there with her. But this buck, this big buck, he was right there with her. He was staying close, and he was having to push those little guys out. So he put on a good show. He would run the little bucks off, and then go right back immediately to her. So he was definitely waiting. He was waiting. He knew that she was close, and I knew she had to be real close. And she made her way down towards the creek that I was in. But the doe took the bucks down into the neighboring property, and slightly just angling away from my setup. And I thought that was it. I pretty much kind of ruled it as she was taking them off, and she was going to go deep into that other property. And little did I know, I'm not quite sure if maybe they did what they had to do and then he was off for another doe, or he just maybe realized that she wasn't ready. I don't know what happened, but I'm glad it did. Later that evening, I could hear a buck grunting. I could hear him grunting, and that buck was going around me. I could tell by the sound of the grunts that he was coming around me. I wasn't able to see the deer. You couldn't see the deer. It was too thick in that brush over where he was traveling through. But I knew it was a buck, and I knew it was a big mature buck. The grunt was just really deep and loud, and I could just hear it echoing and bellowing through that brush. But I could just tell that was a mature buck. The grunts were just bellowing, and I could just hear those grunts deep and just pounding through them bushes. I mean, he had a good grunt. And then later that evening, I just happened to glance to the field to my right, and it was probably 200-300 yards that buck finally come around. He made his loop, and he come out into that field, and that buck was walking straight almost away from me, and I got my grunt tube out, and I grunted and I grunted and I grunted, and you know, at that point I just knew that he was just gone. I would think that he's probably heard a few grunts already previously in that general direction. So I don't know what got over me. I just done the best snort wheeze I could possibly do. When I snort wheezed at that buck, he stopped dead in his tracks, and he turned around and he postured up. He was just the man. I think he was just the man of that property. And he heard that snort wheeze, and he just knew that somebody was invading his territory. And I'm down to the wire here. The sun's going down just as fast as it can go down, and I'm losing daylight fast. But the buck's on his way, and he's coming. He's coming to me on a beeline. And little did I know, the grunting and the snort wheezing that I done to get his attention to come in, I also attracted another buck that was over my left shoulder towards the opposite direction of where that buck was at. And I called that buck in, and I didn't even have a clue. I never heard him walking in. I never heard him stepping. And so when the big buck come, and he got, within that distance of when they typically will just stop and look, and if they don't see anything, get uninterested. But lucky that when he stopped there, I didn't know it at the time, but a buck had walked in over on my left side. So when he stopped, he seen that buck, and I had no clue he was there. So that buck starts coming in, and he's coming in to the other buck that I had no clue was there, and I'm already just flabbergasted here. I mean, I'm in a mess. I'm so busted up and trying to just hold it together. And by that time, I thought to myself, you know what, the shooting light, we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna, sometimes you just gotta send it. So just a chip shot, and I let it go, and it put it right where I wanted it to.
Go down right there. Go down right there, boy. Go down. Go down. Go down. Go down. Go down right there.
When that arrow hit that deer, he didn't even know. He had no clue, and he just kind of hops a little bit and just stands there. I clobbered him again.
Where you going? Where you going? Where you going? Go on, boy.
Could possibly be the biggest deer that I've ever killed in my life.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's the double bean bug. Oh, he's down in the creek.
And by that time, I was in a mess. I just went through the last couple of minutes of the most intense, incredible bow hunting that I had probably ever done in my life.
I drilled him right up under the Smoked him. I'm about to call the boys. Let them know I just killed a good one. He's down right in the creek. I thought he was gone. I thought that was it. I didn't have hardly any shooting light left. I know the footage is going to be a little dark. But I mean, just in the nick of time, he come in. And he was fixing to leave. He was over there about 150, 200 yards. He's right in the creek though. I'm gonna give it just a minute. That was incredible. That's why you come to Kansas. That is why you come to Kansas. For big bruiser bucks like that. His body's huge, big body. Well, here comes the cavalry.
What'd you do?
We got a good buck down on the dirt. It was awesome, man. That was a good man. God, that was a good hunt. I got to shoot this buck twice. I shot him. He just stood there, and I mean, he was hurt and looked like he was going down, and I'm just sitting there begging him, please go down, please go down. He kind of made a little step, and I got thinking about some of them past hunts where, you know, we've lost deer. I've knocked another one, flap. Man, I knocked him right into the creek. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. He got down in the creek and expired down in the creek, and I shot him just up under the stand there, and the rest is history. Let's go look at this thing, man. I'm excited.
Oh yeah. Look at there, boy.
What you think?
Yeah, it's a beautiful buck. Beautiful buck. Pretty buck.
Look at that main beam.
Pretty buck. Pretty buck.
Look at that freaking main beam. How about that main beam? But when I seen that right there, I just immediately said, if that buck comes in here, I am shooting that buck. Oh, yeah. There's no way I'd let that go. Because look at that. I mean, that's 9, 10 inches of just main beam. And look, I mean, I could, like I said, out there in that field, you could see that main beam and this one. I mean, it was a no-brainer. I said, Lord have mercy. And look, he had a drop tine. I don't know if he lost it in the creek, because he beat this creek all to pieces. I actually drug him out of that hole right there. I pulled him up here on the rock. But he beat this creek. I mean, he tore this thing up.
Wow.
Just a
next
awesome,
too.
yeah, I mean, he was rutted up so hard that when that arrow hit him, he didn't even, I mean, it was just like not even a thing. I mean, you know, we'll look at the footage and you'll see it. I mean, when that arrow hit him, it was just like, you know, I mean, you can tell it got him, you know, but it just wasn't that big of a thing, you know.
On his back.
Yeah, I mean, he was just still in the mood. He still wanted to fight, you know.
Yeah,
that's good mass, you know. I mean, he's a heavy horn buck, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be a beautiful mount too, I guarantee you.
I'm tickled, man. I'm so tickled. Short little old tiny ears. Makes him look wide.
Somebody gets to sleep in the morning while the rest of it.
I think it's B-roll time now.